Every React component has a lifecycle. First, it gets mounted in the DOM. Then the content of this component might get updated at some point, and then the component might actually be removed from the DOM. We can write custom code around these events in the lifecycle of a component to customize the behavior. We use React lifecycle methods to do that. There are a few lifecycle methods that I'd like to talk about here. The most important one is component did mount. This is the lifecycle method that guarantees that the DOM has been mounted in the browser successfully. Another component lifecycle method is component will unmount. This is the lifecycle method that says the component is about to be unmounted. I'm going to put a console.log line here and another one in will unmount. And after both of them, I'm going to put a debugger statement. Don't worry about the ESLint warnings. These are just temporary. So now when we refresh, you'll notice one thing. First, we are in did mount. And you'll notice that the component actually is mounted in the DOM because we can see the content of the component in the DOM. And then component will unmount is not going to be invoked because we are not removing this component from the DOM. So I'm going to actually force removing this component from the DOM. It's simple. Let's start with a timer. Set timeout. This timer is a function. And let's invoke this timer after 4 seconds. And inside the timer, we're going to force the DOM to render another element. For example, let's do another h2. And this call is going to actually remove the app component from the DOM because we're rendering something else into the same element. So let's test. We first get into the did mount debugger call, and that works. And after 4 seconds, the component is going to be unmounted. So in the console, we'll see that we are in the will unmount phase now, and the debugger stopped. The component is still in the DOM, but once I hit resume here, it's going to go away from the DOM. And you'll notice that we now have the new h2 content in the DOM. Let me clean that up. So this is what we do in component will mount and component did mount. If we have any custom behavior that we want to invoke around the lifecycle of a component, we use these lifecycle hooks. For example, if you want to integrate your code with a third-party plugin that depends on the fact that you have the DOM, then you need to put your integration code inside component did mount. We usually also do any AJAX fetching here in component did mount so that when it comes back from the server, we are sure that we have DOM to modify with data. We also usually fire any timers in here or any listeners to other events. And in component will unmount, we usually clean those timers and listeners so that they don't leak out of the scope of the component.